Hello YouTubers, this is John. In Italian that's Giovanni, and this is Metal Art by Giovanni. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a hat tree, and not just any kind of tree, but a cowboy hat tree. It's difficult, if you've got a lot of cowboy hats, it's difficult to store them because they take up so much room. We're going to build a tree today that holds 12 cowboy hats. It takes up about a 2-foot vertical space, and that would store approximately 12 hats. What we're going to use today in terms of material is 7 feet of 1.5-inch square tubing, 1/8 wall. We're going to use 22 horseshoes. These happen to be Diamond Farrier #1 Classics. We're going to use about 10 feet of 1/4-inch round bar. It can be either hot roll or cold roll, doesn't make any difference. Hot roll is less expensive than cold roll, as we know. And we're going to use a piece of plate. This happens to be about 3/16 thick. It's approximately 4 by 9, and we're going to use that as part of our base. Lastly, we're going to use some 3/8-inch felt pads, which will go on the bottom of the base once it is completed. This is what our completed project will look like with the cowboy hats in place. In order to get ready to make our hat tree, we're going to get our materials ready to use. First thing is we're going to clean the 1.5-inch square tubing with acetone. We're going to make sure that one end is extremely flat, the burrs have been cleaned up, and the edges chamfered. The horseshoes, we are going to, even though these are new, we are going to wire brush these and make sure that we get rid of all the mill scale and all surface imperfections on the horseshoes. On the 1/4-inch bar, we are going to clean the bar with acetone. We're going to cut it to 8 inches long. We're going to square the ends, and we're going to chamfer the ends. You're going to make 12 of these to go with the 12 horseshoes out of the 22 that we're going to use for the branches of the tree. The 12 8-inch round bars will be bent at about a 20-degree angle, 3 inches in from one end. So if you make a mark here 3 inches in from the end and bend it so that it's got approximately a 20 to 25-degree angle, that's what you're after. The exact angle is not critical, but it is important that each of the 12 pieces have very similar bends. You can use a vise or other method for bending. 1/4-inch bar can be bent without heating. Alignment of the 1/4-inch bar on the horseshoe prior to welding is very important. Use the center point of the Diamond Farrier logo to show the center line of the horseshoe and draw with a Sharpie fine point pen. You can continue that on to the back of the horseshoe, which I'll show in a moment. Also, use a straight edge to pick up the bottom edge of each of the lower nail holes on the horseshoe. This will give you an alignment point for the base. Here is the back of the horseshoe showing the location of the line that is coming off of the point of the Diamond Farrier logo. You're going to want to make sure that the 1/4-inch round bar is aligned in 3 planes relative to the horseshoe. You're going to want to make sure that it is aligned on the center line that you drew from the Diamond Farrier logo. You're going to want to make sure that it is vertically 90 degrees up and down, and you're going to want to make sure that the 1/4-inch bar is not twisted out of plane against the horseshoe. You are now ready to tack, check alignment in all 3 directions, and then finish weld. You're going to complete 12 of these small assemblies. Once you have the 12 small assemblies of horseshoes with a 1/4-inch rod made, clean the spatter and wire brush now before you start to weld this assembly to the trunk. To get proper placement of the horseshoes on the trunk, we need to measure and mark where to weld the horseshoe assemblies. We'll start at the top. We will measure down the tree trunk 4 inches and mark a line on one side and then on the exact opposite side. These 2 lines must be 180 degrees from each other. Your first 2 lines, 4 inches from the top, must be 180 degrees from each other as shown here by my fingers. One of the assemblies will be welded here. The other assembly will be welded here when we get to that point. Your next measurement is 16 inches down from the top in the opposite plane. So, starting 4 inches from the top, we're going to have 2 lines 180 degrees from each other. 16 inches down from the top, we're going to have another pair of lines opposite the initial lines. Then we're going to go down another 12 inches and make another pair of lines, again opposite the original lines. We will make a total of 6 pair of lines, and they will be measuring from the top 4 inches, 16 inches, 28 inches, 40 inches, 52 inches, and 64 inches. The 4-inch space at the top will allow placement of decoration, either another pair of horseshoes or a star or whatever you might choose to use as decoration. As well, it will leave a spot toward the bottom of the tree above the floor line. Mark the center line of each pair of marks. This is where each horseshoe will be welded. Tack 2 pair to the tree trunk, making sure to align the 1/4-inch bar to the center of the trunk, center of the bend vertically, and center of the horseshoe to the trunk. Not too bad. Now this is 180 degrees opposite from the first tack. When you have alignment as good as possible, finish welding. Once all 12 horseshoes are in place and the trunk is welded to the base, we will come back and fine-tune each horseshoe placement with either an oxyacetylene torch or a propane torch. It is very easy to get these aligned perfectly. At this point, remove any weld spatter on this assembly. We will use 10 horseshoes for the base, and we will weld the trunk to this base. Mark all 10 horseshoes with a line at the center of the diamond failure outline and a horizontal line across the horseshoe at the bottom of the lowest nail hole. I don't know if you can see this in the photographs, but there is a line at the bottom of each nail hole, the lowest nail hole, and there is a vertical line at the top of the diamond for alignment as we begin to put this thing together. 4 horseshoes face up on your welding table. Use the straight edge of the welding table to align the open legs of the horseshoes. Once you have the horseshoes aligned, place a hold bar down across them and secure with clamps. You'll notice, hopefully you will be able to see that the lines that run across the bottom of the lower nail hole are aligned one horseshoe to the next. Once you have the horseshoes aligned, Place a hold-down bar across them and secure with clamps. This helps prevent any warpage on something that we would like to have to be very flat. If needed, place a clamp in the middle of the hold-down bar. Make sure that the hold-down bar does not interfere with weld placement. Since the hold-down bar will prevent warping from the heat, finish the top weld, grind the top weld smooth. This is very important. Turn the 4 welded horseshoes over and put the hold-down bar back in place. Tack the bottom weld, finish welding, and grind the bottom weld smooth. This is extremely important to make sure that the tree will sit flat on the floor. Remove any weld spatter at this point. The next horseshoes to be welded are the outrigger shoes. One will be placed on each side of the assembly of the 4 horseshoes for stability. It will be centered. You will use hold-down bars on both the original 4 horseshoes as well as the outrigger horseshoe to prevent warping. Tack, check alignment, and then finish weld. Grind smooth at least the bottom weld so the assembly will lie flat on the floor. At this point, remove any weld spatter. Clamp both welded sets of 5 horseshoes to your welding table. Align each pair of the 4 horseshoes in the center and clamp each separately to your welding table. Tack, check alignment, and finish weld the top weld and then grind smooth. Turn this assembly over, tack and finish weld the bottom and grind smooth. Once you have finished welding the bottom welds, they must be smooth. At this point, remove any weld spatter. The trunk will be welded to a mounting plate that has been welded to the horseshoe base. Prior to welding the mounting plate, the area that the plate will weld to must be checked for smoothness. Failure to do this will cause major problems when the trunk is mounted to the base. It will not be vertical. To provide a solid and flat place to weld the trunk of the tree, the mounting plate must be centered in both directions on the horseshoe base. Draw center lines in both directions on the mounting plate. Also draw a line from corner to corner to form an X. The center line of the welded joints of the horseshoes provide a center line for placement of the mounting plate. These lines will be used to properly align the mounting plate to the horseshoe base. Once the mounting plate is centered in both directions on the base, tack, check measurements, and finish welding. Remove any weld spatter. It is time to place and weld the trunk to the mounting base. This will probably require 2 people. Place the bottom of the trunk on the center of the mounting base. Align to the center of the mounting base using the center lines and the X's that you drew as points of reference. Now use a level, align the vertical position of the trunk, check at least twice, hold in place, and tack weld. Many experienced welders would suggest that tack welding square tube in opposite corners, then the other 2 corners works the best. Check for vertical alignment and finish welding. Remove any weld spatter. You're ready to paint. I'm going to use antique bronze by Rust-Oleum. You're going to want, after paint, you're going to want to place the 3/8 diameter felt pads on the base to prevent any scratching of the floors on which they've been placed. Thank you for watching, and this is Giovanni saying so long.